Happens is when you are talking, you also might have observed. This is, for example, if you're talking to a person who's very agitated, talking to somebody who's very, very agitated. Now, as you talk to that person, what happens after 5-6 minutes? The tone comes down. So here, this is again a case of the prior probabilities. When he was talking to you, his probability of committing suicide was 1. But as and when you talk to him, it is coming down because he is opening out, it becomes 0. So here in computer, what happens is we'll have to train it to probably measure the intensity at some levels. If a person talks in high pitch, that agitation, the words are more than so many words a minute. That means the person is agitated. So the tendency is more. So the computer picks up that signal. Okay, so many words, people are talking, they're not able to talk properly. Slowly that agitation comes down, you're able to distinguish the words. So probably you could train it to talk to that person till number of words per minute becomes so much, or the heartbeat becomes normal. See, these are the techniques which people use. Even on suicide helplines, these are the techniques they use. When you're talking to somebody who is miles away and about to hang himself or herself, this is the only way to bring it down because you can't physically do it. So you're training the computers to understand. So that's why it wanted to check whether computers are as good in recognizing and one thing, till now, such a foolproof system has not been found. It's impossible. Like for example, if I give a problem to a student, if the student is able to understand what kind of problem it is, solving it is not a problem. But understanding is the problem, right? The same thing happens, especially with, as I said, with human beings. In statistics, actually, it becomes a little more confusing. When the sample size becomes large, it becomes normal distribution. When the sample size is less, it becomes t-distribution. So unless the programmer knows which distribution it is, garbage in, garbage out only will happen. So that is a valid point. Real-time data analysis, dynamic programming is a field in operations research, wherein we use data which is constantly coming. For example, queues in a bank. You have these counter systems, right? Now the counter system will know which counter there is which counter is free. So the person, that's all again real-time analysis of data. So false positive and false negatives also comes under the same concept.
We'll take one last question.
So you had something.
Regarding the mention about this, so we have positive, negative and neutral as the target labels. So say for one of the probabilities it goes to 0, then isn't it like the entire equation is affected?
Yes, definitely. See, this is a very, very commonly occurring problem. Now, like I said, in the restaurant data, this is a major problem. If one probability becomes 0, it is multiplied. So the entire thing goes to 0. This is one of the drawbacks of Bayesian Naive estimation. So if the probability is very small, like for example, as I said, one Chinese word occurring in an Indian conversation, the entire thing, I might use just one Chinese word and something else, but when I talk about the probability, it will go to 0. Yes, that is the problem with Bayes estimation.
But how come this Bayes works well for the text-related data? Because it assumes independence assumption. But text is something where this independence may not be actually considered, right? How does it work well for text?
See, text analytics again, it's very critical because it will analyze text which is normal, so to speak. If I have a text which is a mixture of many languages, like you have this English and all that, which is a mixture, text analytics will fail. It will detect that word to be out of vocabulary. You have that OV, out of vocabulary words, something like that. And the probability will become 0. There it will fail. See, one important note, in fact, he has made me tell that whatever your software does, whatever your programming skills say, unless there is human intervention, human thought, everything will fail. So like he said, when probability becomes 0, it is up to us to think, okay, why is this 0? Right? Now, last comment, I'll just go. Suppose I find a correlation, very valid example. I find that there is a correlation between eating ice creams and drowning. Okay, then I say that, okay, eating ice creams causes drowning because my data supports. So I have two columns. One is number of ice creams eaten, number of people drowned in the swimming pool or something like that. Now, the common factor in these is the summer. Because of summer, people are eating more ice cream. Because of summer, people are going to swimming pool. So it's not that eating ice creams will make people drown. So like that, see, that kind of distinction, unfortunately or fortunately, computers are not yet able to make. We haven't made them that intelligent till now. Probably in a few years, probably even that could happen. You are trying to find out the hidden way. That is a negativity of Bayesian estimations. Very true. So text analytics is a very, what should I say, tricky business. Very tricky business. Like he said, in translation and text analytics is not as easy as it.
Can you take it off? Can you take it offline? Like
After that, sir.
thanks, ma'am. It was a very nice. Ethical learning is a very big field. Like it can be a separate session itself. Like a lot of research is happening in sentiment analysis now. People are starting to explore entity level sentiment analysis. Like different entities, like can we link the sentiment to a particular entity itself. So a lot of research is happening. Thanks a lot. We can have a quick 5-minute break. We have some snacks and coffee arranged. Please help yourself before starting the next session. Department of Computer Science. We have about a decade of experience in computer science and teaching machine learning and computer science. So she will be speaking on clustering in machine learning. So please welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I am Nachamai from Christ University. The second talk is purely computer science. That is how I will term it. Okay, I'm going to deal with machine learning. In machine learning, specifically on clustering. I hope everybody here knows machine learning, knows a bit of clustering also. Okay, so I assume the prerequisite for the session is already you know all these. So I'm going a little to the next level, so that how do we go at the end of the session, given a data set, how do you select a clustering algorithm? Okay, so for going in for a selection of clustering algorithm, what are the requirements? So I'm going to list out a few applications. I'm not going to drill into the applications, as we are all aware of where we need this concept. Okay, so we are not going to go deep inside applications. We are going to deep inside how we go for a selection of a algorithm. Okay, so there are a few steps that I have put forward, which we can take it for any problem. Okay, so to start off, I have my first 5 slides lined up like this, quickly to break off a few distinguishing factors. Like there is a lot of things that data mining and machine learning is the same. Clustering and classification are almost the same. Okay, but basically there are a lot of differences. Okay, so quickly, there is a one-liner for all this. Okay, the first 5 slides I'm going to just break off all this and then take you all directly to clustering. Okay, so to quickly start with, my session starts with machine learning. So what is machine learning? Probably we are looking into smart machines, machines that can learn, machines that can adapt, where we don't have to write any program. Okay, usually earlier we were looking only for automatic systems. Now we are looking for autonomous systems. We want them to be self-driven. That is what is the basic single liner for machine learning. Okay, so now in machine learning, what we expect, without we teaching the algorithm based on the situation, to be specific, based on a new data which comes in, my algorithm has to adapt. That is what is expected. That is what is pinpointedly machine learning. Next one. This is a very famous definition. I will not do justice if I am not going to give due credit for this person if I don't take his definition in the session on a machine learning. Very specific, okay? Artificial intelligence, this is actually a subdivision or a sub-area of artificial intelligence. And when we say intelligence, we generally, before a decade, we were only telling human intelligence. Okay, now we want that intelligence in machine. Basically, the experience of a person has to get into a machine. That is what we want. Okay, actually, when we take some decisions also, based on our experience, it becomes a good decision. So that experience has to be brought into our algorithm. So usual algorithms has two parameters. There is some specified task T, okay? There is some algorithm that has to give me a performance. That is our regular algorithm. What does this machine learning algorithm specifically want? There is one more additional term that we bring in here. That's called experience. So with the experience of E, okay, with the quantity of experience of E, the performance has to shoot up. This experience is the point that we are trying to bring in inside for the machine learning algorithm. That's the difference between a normal algorithm and a machine learning algorithm. Hope it's clear. The next one. What is this data mining and what is this machine learning? See, data mining is, we have a lot of data. Now we even talk about big data. There's a huge hangover over big data which is happening. We have lot of data. With this data, when we try to extract knowledge, we don't say information anymore. We say we are extracting knowledge, okay, which is interesting patterns. Now we have changed all terminologies. No useful patterns. We say interesting patterns. If we can get interesting patterns from data, from extracting that knowledge which we have, okay, that is specifically called as mining the data that we have. So to mine this data, we keep using this machine learning. Okay, the algorithms of machine learning are used in data mining. So the differentiation between what is data mining, what is machine learning, I hope it's clear. Yes? Next one. Now, going into clustering. Okay, what is this clustering? Before going into the definition, why do we want to do clustering? Why do we people want to do clustering?
Because we form groups of similar entities.
We can form a group of similar entities
Yeah, which doesn't have any labels.
which doesn't have any labels.
Or to find out labels.
We have to find out labels, okay?
Auto classification.
Auto classification. Now, what do we do after we do this clustering, or why are we doing this clustering?
We want to understand.
Decision to get some value for the business.
Very good. The end point, the end idea is to get value for business. We want a business intelligence solution. Any application you take and it goes to the liner, single liner, that there is a business intelligence application. There is a business component. Yes, I think everybody will agree on this. That's the basic idea. That's why I thought this session would be useful if we can take any kind of a data and we would know how to make it into a business value. It may not be for the company, it may be for individuals also. Yes, now we have a lot of apps which we individuals develop, and more than companies, individuals flourish more. Right? Okay, now coming into what is clustering. Very simple. There are some natural groupings in data. Okay, if this data is very normal or nominal, we have natural groupings. If in case the data that we have in hand is not natural, okay, but we try to find some clustering, some similarity between them. Okay, there are two terms that I would like to highlight. One is the intercluster and the intracluster. Okay, so I need a similarity in the cluster, okay, which has to be maximum within a cluster, and between two clusters it has to be supposed to be maximum, within a cluster it has to be minimum. Okay, so that is what mathematically, I am trying to train it mathematically, no theory. Okay, so we are finding a cluster. Within a cluster the distance has to be minimum. Trying to find data points where I can cluster together with minimum distance, trying to find data points which are maximum, that becomes a separate cluster. So this is our task in hand. We have a set of data points. These data points has to be clustered around. Okay, only mathematical equation to follow. The data points within one cluster has to be having a distance lesser. Data points within another cluster has to be distant from this cluster. That is what is, in simple terms, clustering. Is it that difficult? Is it? Yes, it is. It is not as easy as we have stated it. Okay, it's not very easy. Quickly to differentiate between what is classification and what is clustering. Already one of the person here told me that labels, defined labels. Okay, if you have predefined labels, you know that these data points belong to a class label, okay, and you have a full set of training examples given for that, then you say that process is classification. Okay. The clustering is also classification. The idea is you have to find the classification in the data. You don't have a label, you have to go and find the classification in the data. That is what is called as clustering. Okay, so I think all these myths are broken. We will move into the next one. Usually we go into only 2 levels of supervision. Now I'm going to take the session like this. There are 2 things that we have to look forward for when we choose an algorithm. One is, first is of course the data. Okay, we have to sit and look through the data, number 1. Number 2, what type of data are we having? Okay, what type of supervision levels should I follow? Or in other terms, there's a learning algorithms that I have to pick. Okay, what type of learning algorithms I have to pick? The third one, what type of clustering approach can I use for this data? Okay, so reading through the data, it's going to be from the physical experiment through a human agent. So first one I'm leaving. The second one, I'm going to start off with how do I find what is the level of supervision that I have to adopt for a given data set. Okay, so there are 4 different levels of supervision that we have. Of course, you would have been very clear with, or we would have already gone through supervised and unsupervised. Yes, there are 2 other classifications that we have now, which is called as semi-supervised and weakly supervised. Now, what is this supervised? Do we now get data that is supervised? Assuming you all know what is supervised learning or supervised supervision. Do we get data that is supervised? Very rarely. Very simple. See, you have a data set, okay? Will it be there with the output? The output is what is a label that we want to map it to. We have input columns, we have an output label. It's very difficult to have all the input columns and the output label along with it, right? And of course, we can make a data into a supervised data, okay? But it's too expensive. You need some statistical tools, as the previous speaker has told you. With past data, you can populate data and find out and create a data which will be helpful, or of course it's a very expensive effort. So nowadays we don't get data which is completely supervised. Okay, so I think we will have to move out with that supervised learning. Okay, the next category you have is called as semi-supervised. We get a lot of data now with semi-supervised. There are a few examples or few training samples that are labeled. With that training samples, unseen data has to be labeled. Okay, so you have few training samples which is already labeled. Now the machine has to learn from those training samples and start labeling the unlabeled data. This is the scenario that we are in. We have lot of semi-supervised data. There is a lot of practical data that is already available, from where we try to bring it. Okay. The third category is another one which is building up, which is called as weakly supervised. Okay. Weakly supervised is a very fewer examples which can be thought out as positive examples. Okay. And if I can give a positive label to the fewer examples that I have, assuming the positive labeling is true positive rate out of my confusion matrix that I have, then my clustering becomes a very good clustering. Okay, so basically we are into these 2 levels now. Okay, apart from this, there is one base level that we have that's called as unsupervised clustering. Okay, this unsupervised clustering is a very appealing paradigm. Okay, why? Because whatever data you get, you can apply it on an unsupervised supervision. You will be able to do an unsupervised. That's why it's very appealing. Okay, that's a major drawback also. The same thing becomes a drawback because you're not telling the algorithm what it has to do. So you're not going to tell the algorithm what it has to do. So making the algorithm stable in that terms, to make it do the clustering wonderfully well, okay, it becomes a big challenge for us. Okay, so anything that we are going to do with unsupervised supervision can be applied on semi-supervised and weakly supervised. keeping that in mind, the entire session I'm going to deal only with unsupervised algorithms. Is that okay? Yes? Okay, now we'll move on to the applications. I want you all to name what are these applications. I hope I have made it clear.
Google News.
Very good. One is Google News, the other one,
QR codes.
sorry, it's not QR codes. I have just given the X and Y labels so that you. Very good. It's biological data, genetic analysis. Okay. Two highly statistical data where we are using more of machine learning algorithms. Your Google News, the information retrieval where it is clustering all news. I think for the past 2-3 days you will see one family issue happening. You go read it, you get entire news getting clustered together. Is there someone manually sitting and clustering all that? No. Right? So basically that is a unsupervised clustering on Google News. The second one where we have highest amount of work happening is in genetic analysis. Okay, that's one example. Quickly, the other things I have named it. Okay, so we have server clustering that is being done. Okay, organizing storage. We have social network analysis. We have market segmentation, and we have astronomical data analysis. Okay, these are a few samples. I think these pictures were brought so that it gets more into your mind. I am going to list out a top list of 10 applications.